There was a time when I believed that transformation happened in small, incremental steps, that with just a little bit of effort, I could change my habits, my thoughts, and my reactions. But I was wrong. Incremental changes didn't work when I wanted to transform how I reacted to frustrating life experiences. My response to everything that irritated me had to be rewired from the ground up. The goal wasn't just to adjust. I had to break free, to stop reacting from a negative space, to pause between emotional irritation and reaction. I started using Stoic wisdom and psychological tools to shift the stories I told myself. And then I came across a quote by Carl Jung that took my transformation to a whole new level. He wrote, "Every transformation demands as its precondition the ending of a world, the collapse of an old philosophy of life." That was the moment everything clicked. True transformation isn't about slight modifications, it's about destruction and rebirth. It's about completely tearing down an old version of yourself to make room for something new. And the reality is, that process is uncomfortable, painful even, because it requires letting go of an identity you've spent years building. I'm still rewiring my first philosophy on everything that makes me uncomfortable. It's a psychological shift in progress. I want to be able to separate my response to life from my ego, the drama of the mind. Once I become the observer of my emotions, I can let them go. Jung's insight made me realize that real change requires a total internal shift. The disintegration of the old self must fall for the new to rise. A belief, a habit, an identity, something has to collapse. Or better still, you must go through the uncomfortable process of letting it go. It's not just about adding new habits, it's about tearing down the ones that no longer serve you. That's the bitter truth about change. It demands sacrifice. And if you resist it, if you stay stuck, if you cling to the past, you block the future. The most powerful transformations in history have come from destruction and renewal. The Renaissance, the fall of the Roman Empire, the Civil Rights Movement, they were not simply shifts, they were collapses of entire worldviews. They were necessary sacrifices that paved the way for something far greater than what came before. And this process isn't just collective, it happens within us too. The moment you let go of an old way of seeing the world, an old way of being, you make space for something greater. Many thinkers and writers talk about death and rebirth as a necessary process for reinventing ourselves. Ursula K. Le Guin once wrote, "Life rises out of death, death out of life. In being opposite, they yearn to each other, they give birth to each other, and are forever reborn." What then is life without death? Life unchanging, everlasting, eternal. What is it but death without rebirth? That's the paradox we face. Change is both an ending and a beginning, a destruction and a creation. The cycle never stops. Jung understood this. The death of the old self is a precondition for the new self. You can't transform without it. Think about any major shift in your life. It likely came with some form of ending. A relationship, a career shift, a belief system, something had to give. But looking back, did that ending make way for something new? Did it open up possibilities you never could have imagined? Maybe you met new people. Maybe you discovered a strength you didn't know you had. Maybe the collapse of your old reality forced you into a new one that changed everything. The growth that follows destruction is inevitable if you allow it to happen. And yet, many people resist this process. We fear the unknown. We cling to what's familiar, even if it's painful, even if it's keeping us from growing. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes?" That's the uncomfortable truth. The process of change isn't gentle. It's fire. It's destruction. It's tearing down every illusion you once held on to so tightly, because illusions are comfortable. They make us feel safe. They make us feel like we know who we are. But sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. The truth is, transformation isn't about self-improvement. It's about self-destruction. The version of you that exists today cannot coexist with the version of you that is trying to emerge. The old must end, it must fall apart. A death of who you were. I've given up jobs, relationships, and a life that I once thought was my only path. And at the time, it was terrifying. I thought I was losing everything. But I moved on, and I'm glad I did, because every ending creates space for something new. Take the Renaissance, for example. It was a massive cultural and intellectual shift in Europe, but it didn't just happen out of nowhere. It was sparked by the rediscovery of classical art and philosophy, which challenged the medieval worldview. The old way of thinking collapsed, allowing for the blossoming of new ideas. Thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Galileo emerged, reshaping art, science, and society. The printing press, invented by Johannes Gutenberg, revolutionized the spread of knowledge, making books and ideas more accessible to the masses. Education flourished, and universities across Europe became hubs of innovation and progress. People started questioning everything, from the structure of the cosmos to the nature of human existence. This intellectual fervor spread like wildfire, laying the groundwork for the Enlightenment and the modern world as we know it. Jung's bitter truth is a practical lesson on reinventing yourself. When we go through a self-rewiring, we're not just changing a little bit. We're leaving behind an old version of ourselves. That old version, with its habits and old beliefs, has to end. Then, a new version can replace it. Remember when everyone thought the Earth was flat? Then people like Copernicus and Galileo came along and said, "Nope, it's round." That wasn't just a tweak to the old theory. It was a complete paradigm shift. It shook people's perception of reality. It forced them to reimagine everything they thought they knew. Maybe you used to be the kind of person who avoided conflict at all costs, but then you had an experience that forced you to stand up for yourself. The old passive version of you didn't just become slightly more assertive. That version of you had to die, so that a new, stronger version could take its place. That's how transformation works. You don't evolve by making small tweaks. You evolve by letting go of the past and stepping fully into the unknown. The most profound changes come when you abandon the comfort of certainty and embrace the chaos of growth. Joseph Campbell wisely said, "We must be willing to get rid of the life we've planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us." The old skin has to be shed before the new one can come. If we fix on the old, we get stuck. When we hang on to any form, we are in danger of putrefaction. Hell is life drying up. Transformation forces us to confront endings. The old life, the one we've carefully built, must give way to a better self. The collapse isn't just physical, it's psychological and philosophical. It challenges our very identity. But it's necessary. Every day I get closer to my own hell. I find strength in knowing that a part of me must give way to new beginnings. Jung said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." I must face my own reality, no matter how ugly. Transformation is painful and confusing, but it's also incredibly rewarding. It's how we grow, evolve, and become the best versions of ourselves. So yes, transformation is about endings. It's about letting go of who you were to become who you must be. And that's the truth. The one truth that could completely change your life, but only if you're willing to hear it and act on it.